feel like it's sort of fallen out of competitive favor, but I love that weapon, and I am really excited to see the Inkjet synergy you're talking about today. We might not see it immediately, as it looks like Dali's pulling out a pen here. Actually, a pen mirror match here, Mia.
Yeah, and I have seen Dally go on the pen recently, so you know what? That should be of note that he might be playing that as well.
Mm. Yeah, so, pen on either side, the typical carbon roller coming out from Vera. And they're going to be fighting up against Kronos' tent here. So I think we're going to see kind of probably a hold in mid for a while, especially with a crab battle going on.
Yeah, as you can see, We Might Be Cooked was able to take mid pretty fast, but
Yeah.
since on Krak went for the crowd really early, they were actually make it pretty neutral.
Yeah, definitely. We see Golden Ball pushing up here, getting a really good splat on Vision, going for one more. DRF gets traded out here. They're basically in their spawn, but they don't yet have that ball. It's really just Pepe who has the most clams, and, he's only got 5 at the moment.
Yeah,
Oh.
if you include the clams on his glasses, then he might have 7, you could say, but still not enough clams to form a ball here to make a push. So they get pushed back into mid here, and Vera trying to go for a really fast kill on Pencil. She does end up getting it, and that'll be really impactful because I don't think their Pencil grabbed the cooler. Yep, they're still respawning, so it's going to be a long time before they get another cooler with how long that spawn is going to take.
Yeah, for sure. So already we saw the momentum sort of switch back in the favor of On Krak. Although if you're Kronos and just one pumping people with your tent, you might have something to say about that. Already we see Kronos pushed back up, but the cooler is good, and already the frontliners of On Krak are back and ready to wage this defense. We don't have any scores yet, and it's been a minute and a half.
Yeah, no scores, but 2 crab battles so far. I mean, this is a really interesting match. It seems like they just keep popping it to go rival each other, and it's really fun to see here and see if We Might Be Cooked can push further up here. It looks like they might be able to with that Zuka pick.
Definitely. Kronos putting in the work, getting the Zuka pick, but the power of the cooler has made it so this is another 4v4. A lot of clams on the side of We Might Be Cooked, but they just have not been able to get enough players down on the side of On Krak to really make a good push here, and we're sort of just stalled in mid.
Yeah, and it looks like Golden Ball is saving their crab for later, so we might be able to see that a bit on the defensive because On Krak was already able to take some space in mid.
Ooh.
So that might help them see as they use it right now. It helps them a little bit to go prevent On Krak from getting a little bit too much momentum. So now this gives the chance of We Might Be Cooked to be able to get back into mid here.
Yeah, it really did look like On Krak was going to be able to make a huge push there, but We Might Be Cooked, to your point, has sort of regained that momentum. They lose Vera. It looks like they're going to lose the Julies as well, and finally, We Might Be Cooked. This might be the push they're looking for as the basket is broken, and it's only Vera. She's the only one respawning from the side of On Krak.
Yep. And that 10 on the circle is going to be really impactful here. Able to put up those shields for free, especially when the crab is up there too. And the Zuka just getting defended for free. Like, it's really hard for the side of On Krak to be able to push back in here. But they do get some solid picks, and now Kronos being locked out in the back might get taken out.
Yeah.
It looks like they might be able to escape.
Oh, man.
Stalling some time here.
Fighting against a tent that has that survivability can be so tough. We saw both Kronos and Fufu stay alive here, which is going to be major for them. Like, 2 of their team members are down, but they're still kind of locking down mid. Already On Krak finally has gotten back into mid, and they have like a 50-point deficit to come back here from.
Yeah, especially now that they have all this orange paint in mid, they might be able to take something here, but they got to be able to force them out, especially Kronos on the right side, just taking so much attention with that shield because you can't ignore it.
Yeah, Kronos just stalling so well like they do for time. Eventually, Vera's able to get the pick with the Zuka there, and finally, Dali's able to kind of get set back up in mid. With Pepe down, they have a bunch of clams. They need to win the crab battle, and no,
wow,
Golden
the
Ball.
explosion shot over the crab hitbox to hit the rider on the head.
Golden Ball knowing exactly how to lob their crab. That is the 3rd crab battle, and perhaps the most important one of the game we've seen so far. On Krak has a ton of clams. They just need the picks, and that Zuka shot from Vera is going to get them started, but they do need to action off of this because already it's gone to a 3v3 situation. They've lost a bunch of their clams. I think they're going to need to make a decisive push now before they just run out of time.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard to push through that choke point, especially here on Umami without any specials. Like, you kind of just have to run through or try to get on that, what people like to call chair, that block there that gets you to the grate. But either way, that's pretty hard to get to. And
Oh,
you see they're using the crab right now to try to get that, and that is able to help them take space, but they still got to deal with that 10. And they do deal with it. Now they're able to get a push started, but DRF coming from behind, or sorry, Golden Ball. The IGNs are confusing.
Indeed they are.
Able to get some picks here. And it looks like they're just not going to have the clams to be able to score.
Yeah, the only one left up was Vera, who was able to jump in. They do have the pity, but just, not enough time. The basket closes. And, that was a very close match. It might have looked like most of the time We Might Be Cooked had a lot of control, but had there been a couple more clams gone in the favor of the side of On Krak earlier, I think that could have been a totally different game, right? And we saw how long it went before a single score. Like, these teams are so evenly matched with each other that, it takes like a good 3 or 4 minutes just for a score to happen. And when it does, there's only a 12-point difference between the two.
Yeah, for sure. And especially on Umami, if you haven't been able to get far up enough to completely lock out that choke point, it does make it pretty possible for the other team to still come back in and get that really fast. As we saw, they pop one crab, one strikes, just one special, and that does kind of let them get back in. And so On Krak was able to take the space in mid from the side of We Might Be Cooked. Pretty fast and pretty easily sometimes, and then, they might get forced out again, but it really just went back and forth there. Orange ink in the middle and then blue ink in the middle, and, you look away for a second and now it turns the other color, and it's like, wow, no one locked them out too far, but, there were advantages in both ways, and we saw that with the scores, On Krak making a pretty good push at the end, but just, a few clams off and just maybe one pick or so off from being able to have the time to get that back in and have the space.
Yeah, and this is an interesting thing. In anticipation, or are we going to see, hey, let's stick to our guns, we know what works, and we're about to find out, as it looks like, is that a V-roller coming out from Vera? Okay. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen her play V-roller. I'm really curious.
I've seen her play that a little bit more recently, but, normally we know her for the carbon, but it's still a roller, a sharking roller that can go in pretty far. And the V-roller, especially poking onto their flat here, will be really impactful.
Definitely. We see the jellies floating in the background, but most of the action is already on zone as Kronos unfortunately goes down to a well-picked splat bomb. We Might Be Cooked has been wiped out for the first time, basically this entire tournament as far as I'm aware, and Vera is in an extremely good spot. That V-roller can pop this bubble and just contain so much space up here. I think we're going to see quite a few points coming out from the side of On Krak.
Yep, and as you see there, even if Vera was only able to get one pick, they couldn't rush the bubble. They had to spend so much time on that now look, they have these strikes already. They're throwing the bombs up. They've got all these resources that they're able to use because of the time that Vera was able to stall. And the picks from that Zuka on the side of Chromos.
Oh man,
awesome.
Kronos just working with the Zuka, but ultimately too many of their team members going down to cap immediately. They do get the pick, and with Pepe pulling the Zuka of his own out here, is going to try to get some work in, but Vera, oh man, just barely misses out on the pick here. Now it looks like On Krak is in the disadvantage situation, and it's time for We Might Be Cooked to kind of set up and try to get their points now.
Yeah, and this can be scary for On Krak, especially right here. They already got another Zuka out. The 10 already got another one. Like, they're just going to keep coming out, and there's not too much room to go to dodge these Zukas. Look, the Pen's hitting shots here. Like, it's really hard to be able to come back in from this.
Definitely.
We'll see what they can do with that.
You know, Bubble can be really good for holding, but it can be a little bit difficult on retake. Vera is able to get it on the zone, and they're able to get the quick cap, which is excellent for them, but it's still a 4v4 situation. Make that a 4v3v2, 2v2 situation as players are going down left and right. It's just a slugfest for mid, and it does go in the favor of We Might Be Cooked. They have a fairly large penalty, but they do have the lead, and this is kind of where you want to be sitting with 3 minutes left in the match.
Yeah, and as you can see, all these players just coming from all sides on the zone. I mean, this is Mahi after the water drops. Like, it's very tricky because they got to watch all sides. Once the players drop in, they could be anywhere in mid, especially when you got to worry about all these slayers on each team. Got to worry about this tent. Got to worry about the carbon, or not carbon, the roller. These are things you really got to worry for, especially with Pepe here getting rushed by the roller, you know, unexpectedly there.
Yeah,
but able to win it.
definitely. Yeah, you had said they can be anywhere in mid, and you got to be careful of the sharking roller with Vera able to get those 2 picks. Unfortunately, not really able to convert it into a full, you know, holdout here, as already We Might Be Cooked is sort of showing their mid prowess here. I think that on Krak is going to need to push together with their specials because We Might Be Cooked doesn't have a lot of penalty. They are able to get one down. They got a cap here before the strikes completely take over the zone.
Yeah, and it looks like they're able to get that cap. They have all 4 set up in mid. They're going to have to get that paint on the right side because, like I said, the second that We Might Be Cooked could drop in, they could just go from the side, and that gives them a lot of angles.
Oh, that's an excellent pick there from Delhi on the pen. They were able to pick off DRF before they got their special, and already on Krak is eating into their real points here. Like, they have no penalty points. The tri-strikes are going to come out and try and stall things. 2 are down on the side of We Might Be Cooked. We're going to see a lead swap here, Mia.
Yeah, and you see on the side of We Might Be Cooked, they were forced in that corner with no paint, and you know, now you're kind of forced to jump out there because you can't really go anywhere you want. So now the whole team knows where you're at.
Yeah, with 15 ticks only, Kronos is going to have to come up big here with the Zuka, and yes, they do. Can they hold it? No, they can't. It looks like the cap is finally going to go back on the side of We Might Be Cooked, but already 2 down on the side of We Might Be Cooked versus the 3. Things have evened out, but look, the penalty of 27 ticks is non-negligible on the side of We Might Be Cooked. I think on Krak has a pretty good position here. They just need to hold on for the remaining 50 seconds.
Yeah, as long as they can prevent We Might Be Cooked from getting a retake, then they'll just win the match. So even if it goes a little more neutral here, I mean, We Might Be Cooked has to fight really hard. And they do get the cap, but they're going to have to hold this a bit to get some points. But it is possible. They only have about 50 counts until they can take that lead again. And then if they hold it for a little bit more longer, they just KO.
Yeah, you know, that team fight in mid there, had things gone a little bit differently, if Vera was able to get either of those picks, it could have been different, because already they are getting real points here with only about 20 ticks left. It's just the roller and the pen. They're gonna have to run at the zone here because they don't have enough time for their teammates to respawn before the lead happens. The bubble needs to come up on left side or maybe top mid as the lead is swapped, but can they hold on to the zone? It looks like they cannot! Oh my goodness, what a showdown between those 2 teams. I thought for sure that zone was going on the side of On Krak.
For sure. I mean, you saw Vera set up that bubble there with all the paint from the bubble, and then the V-roller able to getting a lot of paint and some paint forward onto that zone. I mean, it went neutral, and you know, then the rest of their team started to come in and then was able to combo up with that and then paint the zone, while We Might Be Cooked was a little bit more forced out. But the strikes on the zone, I mean, not only is it just painting the zone so much, and it's really hard to paint over that, but it's denial of space, especially when you have a roller. You have all these frontline weapons that have to play at close range. Now you can't even step in the zone anymore. So you have to paint it from further back.
Yeah, you know, it's just a game of inches, of pixels, right? Like, had the strikes come at a slightly different time, had the bubble come up at a slightly different time, if one or more other person was picked off on zone, that could have been completely separate. And, you know,